Good evening and welcome to another edition of Your Blocking the TV.
And we're back. Thanks for tuning in to episode 6 of Your Blocking the TV. If you're joining us for the first time, we ramble semi-intelligently about sports and we try to give our take on just about all of it. That said, if you haven't, please like, share, and subscribe. Well, Alex, it's been a few weeks. A lot has changed. We've reached the Final Four in March Madness. We're a little closer to the playoffs for NBA and NHL, really close, in fact. MLS is fully off and running, and we're nearing the end of the first week of Major League Baseball. Lots of interesting stuff to cover in those realms. Why don't we start with March Madness and the most boring tournament we've ever seen? 4 1 seeds in the Final Four.
Not just 4 1 seeds in the Final Four, Josh. Like not even a entertaining buzzer beater. You can say we had one in the CSU game. Debatable whether there was a travel before the ball went in. Honestly, when we watched it, like didn't think there was a travel until about 2 hours later when we hopped on the old social medias and saw the commotion. But there really just hasn't been an entertaining matchup. I know you and I talked about it kind of off air. What's to blame for this epiphany of just talented teams running the gauntlet in a chalk matchup in the Final Four. But I think what I want to start with is just looking at the mid-majors and these teams that we've seen as quote unquote Cinderellas as we were growing up haven't had 4 number one since 2008. The rich get richer and they continue to get built up. Hell, Indiana doesn't have a team right now. Every single person has either graduated or hit the portal. It doesn't lead for an exciting NCAA movement moving forward.
Yeah, so I mean, it begs the question: has NIL and the transfer portal, at least for the moment, killed the excitement of March Madness?
And I don't think it's necessarily NIL. I think these guys deserve to get paid. If the booster is going to raise all this money and siphon it to these programs and to coaches and just everything that goes into a program, I feel like the players deserve a chunk of that. I mean, they're putting their bodies on the line. No one knows if they're going to break a leg, have a career-ending injury, and never have that opportunity to see the pros. So cash in while the iron's hot. But this new realm of just in general what's going on in life where you can just get up and leave and join a portal and I'll go to LSU 1 year and then maybe I'll go try Kentucky, maybe I'll try my hand at Arizona because I can. Is I don't like it. I really don't think that in any other sport you have this opportunity. In the major sports you have to earn unrestricted free agency. You earn that opportunity to go out and have 30 teams vie for your services after you've gone through your rookie contract and you're an established veteran. The fact that you can have rookies just be like, I'm going to go to 4 different schools and it's going to be great. I think it's a disservice to the sport.
Yeah. And it's funny because with football, this was a hot button item. And I do think it's not the NIL. You know, you're right. Players do deserve to get some compensation. And I think we've all felt that way for a long time. I mean, certainly at the level where they're generating a lot of revenue, certainly more than the cost of their tuition for their respective universities and their teams. But the combination of NIL and the transfer portal in its current iteration, sort of unrestricted. We looked at football and we thought, wow, this is the Wild West. But we're seeing, I think, and I think you agree, with basketball, it's having an even bigger impact because basketball rosters are so much smaller. You can turn over an entire roster like that.
Right.
And truly, when it comes to this, it's not just NIL, it's revenue share, it's all of this other stuff where, of course, we know those mid-major programs, they might be able to pay their players a bit. They might be able to get them a little bit, but they cannot compete with the major programs in the major conferences. Or, I mean, obviously a team like Gonzaga that isn't in a major conference, they're a major program. And there are those outliers, of course, but for the most part, it's truly the rich get richer, and the gap is widening between those mid-majors and teams like Duke and North Carolina and, the teams that we're seeing excel in this year's tournament.
I was watching the Arizona Duke game, and I follow Duke quite a bit. My sister is a Duke graduate, which is pretty cool to say. And I was watching the Arizona game. We know enough to be dangerous. We love what we do. We love sports. We love talking about sports. Can't follow it as much as we'd like, just being dads and having full-time jobs and more, and all the fun stuff that comes with adulting. And I see a guy in Arizona, Caleb Love, and I go, the same guy that ended Coach K's coaching career with UNC is now an Arizona Wildcat. So he initially commits to Michigan, decommits, chooses the Arizona Wildcats after already playing at an established program like UNC. And you're just like, okay, I get it, Caleb Love. I want you to expand. I want you to do what's best for you. But it just takes away those dynasties. And do we sound like a bunch of just old curmudgeons right now, just going, well, back in my day, we had, the Duke team, those freshmen, they're going to be stellar in a couple of years. But that made sports fun. It made it an open table. The George Masons are gone. The Florida Gulf Coast gone. I know we just saw UMBC recently. I think that was due for an anomaly. I still don't fully comprehend a number one overall seed going out. I know they had some injuries on that Virginia squad, but to come back and win it the next year, it's just I don't see a field. One, they're talking about expanding it, which I think is a terrible idea now. Two, if you're going to expand it, you have to give these mid-majors, these lower teams, better access to funds or TV revenue, which they're just not going to get. You're not going to find these guys on ESPN every week like you are the blue bloods and the who's who of college sports.
Well, and let's talk about, taking it back to college football. And really, we're focused on basketball and football here because when it comes to revenue generating, the other sports really don't. And we know that. And that's why there is talk about, some of the schools that even have like major college baseball programs may move to a club model in the near future, because they don't generate any revenue. And it really has become about that. But consider, if you will, the FCS or low end FBS, group of 5 team that gets paid $1 million to go play Alabama at Alabama. That's money that they can use to help try to build their program. And the question is, does college basketball now need to have something where, hey, if you can make the tournament, your program gets a big bonus, or your program gets a share of any revenue generated by the tournament or something, because there's got to be some kind of equalizer. They don't have the funds. I mean, we're talking about what we talk about with Major League Baseball, and there are rich teams and there are poor teams. There's no salary cap. This is that, but way worse, and
way worse,
with no restrictions whatsoever, really. So it's a problem that you sort of expect that they will solve or work to solve in the coming years, but right now it's truly, and this is really not something I was thinking about as a problem. I had heard so little about NIL and the transfer portal with regard to college basketball, and just in a heartbeat, it has kind of just, I don't want to say it's destroyed it, because those players that are doing well are deservedly doing well. They're good players, but
do you think this would be our conversation on March 31st with the Final Four looming next week?
No,
I would be talking about the death of college
absolutely
basketball.
Not. I'm completely blindsided, and at the same time, I get it. I understand how this has happened. It just wasn't something we were thinking about.
100%. And I think it's tough, because finally the Final Four is coming up next week, and it's going, finally we might see a close game. Finally, it might be an 80-75. We might see some haymakers back and forth. We saw some teams push to the limit. A couple of runs for Florida were 18-4 run to end the game to make it a blowout. So it was a close game, but you just saw really the talent and the athleticism win over in almost every single matchup this tournament. And unfortunately, like we keep saying, I don't see an end in the road. I see this getting worse. I see we asked for a playoff for so long and we missed that opportunity back in our heyday of seeing some of the big programs have that opportunity without the BCS conundrum of just two teams on a BS ranking system. It would have been awesome to have tournaments then, but right now college basketball is a brutal product. It really was. I was reading a book. I'm not gonna lie. This past weekend, I was reading a book until the second half, just because it was just like Duke's gonna win by 20. I don't care how close it is. It's just blowout. So, hoping for some close games. We'll be curious to see what the NCAA does, and it hasn't been talked about lately. But kind of your thoughts on clubs breaking away from the NCAA. You touched on it, going to that club model. I thought when I first heard about it, like what a cop out for big schools to just throw their weight around and create their own league. But more and more, you're going create your own super league and let these FCS teams be the new NCAA darlings so that we can watch competition.
Basically, you've created an intermediate, league between what we currently know as college and what we currently know as pro. And I could see that happening in both football and basketball. And it makes sense, and it frankly it probably needs to. And I've long said, prior to the expanded playoff in football this year, that what's the point for these group of 5 teams to be at the FBS level? What's the point? They have no chance. So they're either FCS where they have less chance of making significant revenue, but they can compete for a national championship. Isn't that what it's all about? It's not. But I think it makes sense because the gap between the major programs in both of these sports and the, sort of contenders, getting outside of, let's just take it outside of maybe the top 20. That gap is so significant at this point that I just don't see a point in continuing with this iteration.
There's no shrinking of it. They're going to keep refreshing with, Cooper Flagg should be in high school right now. They pulled him out early. They're going to keep pulling guys out, ramping them up. You have a team, you look at Duke that has an 18, a 19, an 18, and a 19-year-old that will be in the Final Four. And that's the big talk about this Final Four matchup as they go up against Houston is really, seasoned vets, older players that are more mature and savvy against a young group, but they're not young anymore. These kids have grown up in academy after academy. They've been to basically boarding schools that have tutors that have been surrounding them. But let's be honest, it's not about the smarts. Like these guys have above average smarts to make the plays they do and see the game better than the average person. But other than that, they're athletically
they're bred to
gifted.
Play basketball.
Right.
Yeah.
It's in the genetics.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have a feeling that we could probably chat about this ad infinitum, but we will move on to some other stuff because, frankly, it's a little depressing. I didn't
think it was going to go here either when we first started. But
I think this is the logical direction for it to go. So we've got NBA and NHL playoffs right around the corner, anywhere from 6 to 8 games left for every team. We've got some teams eliminated in the NBA from playoff contention, same in the NHL. At this point, in the East, it's just who's going to be in the top 6 and who's going to be in the top 10. But effectively, Toronto is the only team that's currently out of the playoffs that is not fully eliminated, and their chances are long.
It's been a pretty common trend in the East that it's a pretty solidified playoffs going into those last couple of weeks for the last few seasons. And I don't know what it is about those bottom teams because they're high profile teams. Obviously the 76ers with Joel Embiid dealing with a lot of injuries. The Brooklyn Nets is a conundrum to me, the billions of dollars in that program in New York City with a big following. Hornets and Wizards, what more can you say about those two programs? Just the doldrums. Feel bad for those two clubs there in the East. And then you just look at the playing game, which I think has really been interesting. Is the Bucks are really holding on to that 6th and final guaranteed spot into the playoffs. Could see the Hawks Magic going on a little bit of a run to try and catch the Bucks. But other than that, this is a top-heavy Eastern Conference where I don't really see any other team competing with the Cavs or Celtics or the Cavaliers or the Celtics this year.
Yeah, the Celtics are red hot. They've won 8 straight. They are doing their best to try to catch Cleveland for the top spot. And then you look at the Western Conference, and you've only got 2 teams that are eliminated, but just with the way that Phoenix, Portland, and San Antonio have played down the stretch, they're certainly not looking like they're going to sneak into that top 10.
Everyone's looking to get into that the ping pong ball lottery. It just no team wants to win. You look at the Spurs, Blazers, Suns, and Kings on a combined 12-game losing streak. If you were to add all those losing streaks together, the Mavs coming out of nowhere, winning a couple games. But again, you're looking at a team in the Suns where if they get into that play-in spot, they're dangerous. Durant will be out for a week with a little bit of a dinged up injury that's approached. But if they can get themselves in the tournament, the Trailblazers, they're young and stupid. They don't know any better. Find a way in, and then you're playing against the Thunder team that's young as well. So it'll be an interesting finish to the Western Conference, and I think a more exciting play-in tournament on the Western Conference side. And even if the Spurs can get red hot here at the end here, playing for a coach that's been through a lot this season in Pop. Can carry some teams too. So very interesting coming down the stretch.
One thing that I see when I look at the standings is, the Grizzlies. I don't think Golden State is going to fall out of the top 6 right now with just the general way that they've played down the stretch. But the Grizzlies are maybe faltering a little bit, and Minnesota is only a half game out of trying to get into that top 6. And they've played pretty well down the stretch. So you wonder if maybe there could be a little switching around there, but yeah, you're right. Otherwise it's pretty set. And certainly when we look at who we expect to be in conference finals, I think I'm not expecting a bunch of surprises there.
Grizzlies just fired their coach. They were sitting in the 4th seed and let go of their coach. It's just another realm of the NBA that we live in. That if you haven't been fired, you just haven't been working long enough. So that was a surprising move. I mean, not nearly as surprising. I don't think anything surprises you in the NBA anymore. I remember the coach for the Cavaliers. I can see his face, but when LeBron kind of chased him out of town as the 1 seed, just didn't think he'd be ready for a playoff run. You just see a lot of interesting coaching moves. But really, it's the same teams. You have the Thunder, Nuggets, Lakers, Rockets. It'll be they haven't been in this position in the playoffs in quite some time. So how do they react as a 2 seed? And then you just have the old kind of Lakers Warriors really trying to hold on to their windows. So a lot of interesting playoff matchups to come.
So moving on to the National Hockey League, we've got some teams that have clinched their playoff spots, and we've got some teams that have been eliminated as well. And I mean, really 3 teams that are pretty set at this point. One in the let's see, I think 1 in the West and 2 in the East, if I recall. 2 in the West and 1 in the East.
Right. Yeah, you've got the Capitals, which have really had a bounce back year. Ovechkin chasing down Gretzky within 5 goals now of Gretzky's all-time goal scoring mark, which is, there's just so many records of Gretzky's that you just never expected to fall, and we're going to see 2 of them go down this year. So Gretzky's record, I believe, will go down. He's got 8 games to get 5 goals. And then you had another record just go down for a point per game in 20 straight seasons for Sid the Kid, who just eclipsed Gretzky's mark of 19 straight seasons of a point per game. So you're still seeing just tremendous offensive numbers be put up. You have the Winnipeg Jets, top of the Western Conference, riding Connor Hellebuck, who just overtook Nathan McKinnon as the odds-on favorite to win the Hart Trophy for MVP. So that'll be really interesting coming down the stretch too. We haven't had a goalie win the MVP in quite some time. So seeing him and how McKinnon finishes the season, McKinnon now tied with the with the Tampa Bay Lightning in terms of points, in terms of Nikita Kucherov. So they're both tied at the points leaderboard. So a lot of big storylines to come. Have a lot of Canadian teams that are in the mix. So you have Vancouver and Calgary vying for a wild card spot, have Edmonton that'll get in, Winnipeg that'll get in, the Ottawa Senators, Toronto Maple Leafs. Is this the year that we finally see a Canadian team get a parade for the sport that they invented? A lot of fun storylines to watch as hockey comes down the stretch.
Roughly how many regular season games do we have left?
About 8 games per team right now. So that's about 2 weeks until we're going to hit playoff time for hockey.
Copy that. So moving into the MLS, we're off and running there. And I am proud to say that the Portland Timbers have managed to kind of hold their own and are in the upper half in the West. But it is interesting because, of course, last year Galaxy won it, right? And they are just doing very poorly so far.
Tough start, very tough start for the LA Galaxy, winless on the season. So still looking to get on the right side of the score sheet. I feel like there's a lot of movement in terms of MLS. There's a lot of funky weather. So you have some nice weather out in LA, and then you're going to play in snow when you come over here to Denver. So I feel like we're still waiting for things to even out. Have the Club World Cup that's still getting sorted with Leon from Mexico. Petitioning, not getting into that tournament. So really an end of season tournament for club teams from around the world to get into. So that opportunity for like an LA Galaxy and LAFC to have that opportunity to go up against Chelsea, which is just always fun matchups to see when we get to play against the absolute best. But yeah, I mean, Inter Miami picking up where they left off, Philadelphia Union getting off to a hot start, MLS getting off and running, and some really good quality matchups coming up.
So Major League Baseball, obviously I'm, fully decked out. I busted out Chief Wahoo for the show today. I only wear this hat on special occasions. So I decided to get it out for today because Cleveland, the now Guardians, in first place in the AL Central. And the thing I love maybe even more than that is the Twins, 0-4 in last. And granted, again, it's a long season. So we try not to get too excited, but you celebrate small victories, and I'm pretty happy about that right now.
Yeah, our coach over here at the Colorado Avalanche, Jared Bednar, likes to talk about not winning streaks or losing streaks, but blocks of 10 games. How does my team do for blocks of 10 games? That's a great start. It doesn't get much better than getting off to that hot start, 2-1, and then seeing, a rival being 0-4 and opening up a 2.5 game lead in the standings. Like that's always good. You have some interesting teams sitting at 0-4 as well, with the Twins, the Braves, Milwaukee Brewers sitting at 0-4. So some cold starts for some teams that you expected to fare a little bit better.
Yeah, and speaking of the Milwaukee Brewers, 47 runs allowed through 4 games. You're not going to win a lot of games like that, but 3 of those games were against the red-hot New York Yankees, and we wanted to talk about those torpedo bats. Interesting. I mean, they were just teeing off. They've scored 36 runs, only allowed 14. 14 isn't that few of runs to allow. But when you're putting up those kind of numbers, Aaron Judge had 3 home runs in the same game. How much of an impact is that having?
What was your thought when you first saw the bat? Because my first thought was everybody's that said, how can that be legal?
Absolutely. It looks like a giant bowling pin. I mean, really, that's what it's shaped like. And the first thing that you do is say, well, did the Yankees sneak one by the MLB and try to do something that they're not supposed to do? But MLB has signed off on it. So now the question is, and we are starting to see a little bit of that torpedo bat spreading around. I think Ryan Jeffers for the Twins was the first non-Yankee to use it yesterday or today. So we'll see, I guess, how much of an impact that's really having. I mean, the other side of it is, of course, the Yankees are loaded. I mean, they are. I don't want to just be like, it's definitely the bats, right? It's not like these are a bunch of bums in the Bronx, but we'll have to keep an eye on that and see how much of an impact that is really having, because you've got a bigger sweet spot on those bats, but at the same time, you're sort of selling out to expand that sweet spot because you still have to stay within the
If you
legal
miss the
dimensions.
sweet spot,
If you
wouldn't you
miss
be
the sweet
worried
spot,
about ground ball central?
yeah, I mean, if you miss those dying quails off the end of the bat, that kind of stuff, your chances of getting one of those are narrowed because the end of the bat is narrow. They've taken the end of the bat and they've moved it, but now the end of the bat is almost practically to a point.
I
And
just need to
so,
know, how was this not, did they not use this bat in spring training? They just busted these out. I mean, it reminds me of like a basketball movie where they're just like, hey guys, I did some math over the summer and some
they figured it
analytics.
out.
And now, I mean,
Sabermetrics.
how is every team not going to have torpedo bats coming out in the ninth?
Yeah, you just have to, you wonder what kind of impact this will have over the course of a season, and will other power hitters start to use that torpedo bat? It hasn't picked up completely yet. Still mostly the Yankees, and it's not every Yankee. Not everybody is using this bat. But again, when you're seeing, because again, that it's not like the Brewers are expected to be bad. You know,
Right.
I don't expect them to be the bottom of that division. And just like I don't expect the Cardinals to win that division, although they've played pretty well to this point. They're about to go, I think they just went 4-0 or about to. And they look solid, but yeah, I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see how the batting average and just the comparisons of torpedo bat versus not torpedo bat. Whether the MLB wants to just continue to see the home run parade and the long ball. I'm getting old, Josh. I'm a traditionalist. I want to see runners move. I want to see the sack fly.
That's the kind of baseball I like to watch, and my team plays more of that style. They play small ball. They play good defense. And they're not focused on trying to beat you with the long ball. And at the same time, what do the kids want to see? Is this a reiteration of the steroid era of the 90s where MLB essentially sanctioned that, right, and then later took it back and punished everybody who got caught for it? But is this just another version of that?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I just can't wait to see the comparisons, and if they decide to move, these bats out of commission and what that'll do to certain teams. I mean, they've really opened Pandora's box for teams to look at dimensions of gloves and see what works best, and let the MIT analysts go to work and figure out. But I was really baffled by, this is the big talking point of these goofy looking bowling pin bats, and then we saw the memes coming throughout social media of Aaron Judge strutting to the plate with his big bazooka bat and just cranking them. Maybe I'm just jealous that my club just isn't smart enough to go full torpedo bat. Let's win every game 20-19. Who cares?
Well, and it's not like these bats aren't $1 million bats. So anybody who wants to use them at this point is going to be able to use them. So, we'll see. But you think about combining the torpedo bat, if it really is all that, with playing at home in Colorado, you could see some balls going over 500 feet.
I'm not going to lie to you. I looked up torpedo bat and how quickly I could get one to my doorstep for my softball match this Friday, but it's tough to find a sanctioned torpedo slow pitch softball bat these days.
Oh, man. Yeah, I've got softball starting, let's see. Technically, it should be a week from today. Yeah.
Let's go.
Week from today, we've got our first game.
Better start stretching.
So I've been working on garden stuff for the last week, and I've gotten a workout. My hands, you can kind of see how swollen the insides of my, like right here, because I've been cutting corrugated steel, and man, I'm not a young man anymore. I am, but I feel okay.
It's all that matters. You got to get to the R&R,
like
and
I'm going to be all right.
I
do need to stretch out
first.
Do need to stretch out. Yeah. So let's go division by division here and talk about surprises and things that are not surprises. Thing that's not a surprise: the Yankees undefeated. The thing that is a surprise: 36 runs scored. That's a lot even for them, as we said. The the surprise for me out of this division is the Red Sox are kind of getting it taken to them. It's one of the reasons why the Cardinals, to me, look pretty good because they just got done beating them and sweeping them in a series. So the Red Sox 1-4. Everybody else is kind of, whatever. Minnesota Twins, as much as I love to mock them, 0-4, not what I expected after, especially with who. Well, actually, sorry, they got swept by the Cardinals. I misspoke on that, but not what I expected going into the season. They're healthy. There's no reason why they should not be able to compete with Cardinals. But and then of course the Tigers being 0-3, a little bit of a shock as well. Although then you consider who did they lose those 3 games to, and of course it is the Dodgers, who are 5-0. That's also not a huge surprise. We knew that they were going to be back and as good as ever.
I turned one of those games on 5-3 in the bottom of the 10th, and just I want to see the Dodgers lose, and was like, hey, this will be an early season L for them. No, Tigers couldn't hold on. Put up a walk-off dinger, and I think very much the same. Yankees pounding out runs, Red Sox winning the opener, and then going on that 4-game skid. Your Guardians looking good. Twins and Tigers combined 0-7. Just kind of look at the runs scored and runs against for a lot of these teams. I mean, the Astros in 3 games, 6 runs scored, 5 against. Kind of what you'd expect from that squad. Still
they
waiting for them.
Yeah, they can pitch.
Yeah, in terms of the runs against, runs scored, you're just going, okay, there's some light out. 5 games for the Rangers, and they've had a combined, was that 41 runs in 5 games. So that's
they've given up 25, which is let's see, is that the most that's the second most in the American League, behind the Twins, who've given up 28. And you look at that runs scored versus runs allowed for the Twins. 6 scored, 28 runs allowed. A 22-run differential. Brutal.
Rough. And you can't get off to that. You can't continue that. This early in the season, I know that, there's a lot of runway left in this baseball season. Certainly don't want to overreact, but in a division like that, that's really, somewhat up for grabs for who's going to, claim that top spot. You don't want to put yourself behind the 8 ball and having to make tough decisions early on.
Patience is important in Major League Baseball, but you're right. I mean, you don't want to fall way behind. If you've got something that is going on that is negatively impacting you, you've got to try to find a way to get it fixed. The team that I'm not surprised, or I'm very surprised that the Atlanta Braves are 0-4. I'm not worried necessarily for them. They haven't given up a ton of runs. They just haven't been able to score. But we know
also dealing with distractions. So I don't know, how much they knew moving forward. I feel like teams have an inkling, but Profile are getting the 80-game suspension today. That's going to rattle through the locker room. You just don't know how teams are going to respond. So 0-4 away, no home games yet. You're not going to overreact. The Braves are going to be the Braves at the end of the year. But dealing with distractions and early season, shenanigans is not helping their cause.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Jurickson Profile, we talked about this offline, but he's 32 years old. He had his best season of his career last year as a 31-year-old, and by a lot. I mean, that was the first time where he ever lived up to the expectations that he had, which were quite lofty as a prospect. So
Absolutely.
When something like that happens, yeah, I mean, that was one where they wanted to ask questions about, and maybe we should test this guy. And maybe it doesn't need to be super random, because this is a little bit concerning. Of course, you feel bad for the Braves who went out and got him in the offseason. But, they're going to be fine, like we said. So the Cardinals 3-0, about to go 4-0 if they haven't already. Cincinnati put up a glut of runs today. Ellie De La Cruz hit his first couple home runs. Matt McClain's got 3 already. Nice to see him healthy after he missed all of last year. And then in the West, Dodgers and Padres. Padres are the surprise for me. Not because they shouldn't be good, but because I just thought that they would Padre as they often do. And right now they've come out and they've pitched. They've only given up 6 or 7 runs in this young season, which is the second fewest. The Cardinals have a little bit better differential there. It's like the third or fourth fewest in all of Major League Baseball. So I mean we knew that they had a good pitching staff, so it's not a huge shock. But yeah, it's interesting, and it's an exciting time. I try not to be hyperbolic when it comes to decision making with fantasy baseball, which of course we're in week 1 and I'm on the strug bus. And it's just because players are streaky, and it just always seems to be that when you've got one guy who is 0 for the season. I mean, here's the surprise. You want to talk about surprises. Maybe the best hitter in the National League from an average standpoint, Luis Arraez, 0 for the season so far.
Yeah, you really have to calm your expectations this early in the season for baseball. It's, you're the baseball aficionado and I like to listen to a lot of games on the radio and catch them. I don't really get in until after NBA, NHL fully, where I'm diving in and looking at averages and who's top of the metrics on a lot of the pitching side and batting averages, because there just is so much chaos. I did fantasy basketball for the first time this year and had Jamal Murray, and totally forgot that Jamal doesn't start playing basketball until about February. So found myself way out of the playoffs, ended up trading him to a guy that's in the championship now, and Murray's going off. He's doing, Murray things. I think that's similar with baseball. You kind of ride it out, almost need to turn off fantasy if you're doing the daily and look at your pitching matchups and make sure you have everyone lined up there. But other than that, don't pay too much attention to that batting average. Let it ride. Buy low, sell high on some players. Because there's just so much change that happens throughout these first, I'd say, 4 to 6 weeks.
Well, right. And then, I mean, you've always got some shocking, horrific injuries that happen almost right away. Jose Ramirez, for example, for Cleveland, he's playing tonight, but he had a wrist sprain and, missed a game. And it looked like, I mean, an injury like that could take him out for 2 months. And so, of course, anybody that's got him on their roster and anybody who's a Cleveland fan is like, oh no, what do we do without Jose?
Right.
But
how do you fill that gap? Where are we going to pull up? Are we going to make a trade? Like, what are we going to do to fill that gap in our roster? And I look at it as you don't want to pay too much attention to spring training, especially with my great Rockies that typically find themselves at the top of the Cactus League, just crushing it. You're looking at their pitchers, but at the end of the day, you need to look at players that are playing in spring training, because those are the guys that you're not going to see get injured as much early in the season. It's those guys that kind of take it easy and wean in, and then it's hard to go from 75% to 100%. For as long as the baseball season is.
Right.
So you'll see a lot of those small tissue injuries, tendon issues pop up, a lot of arms that get, thrown out. I know that the talk of the town right now with being in the same division as the Dodgers is seeing their young pitcher get beat up and pulled after a couple innings. And what's his psyche like? And you're like, dude, you play for the Dodgers. Like, don't even, I don't want to hear it. Go take your bullpen. We'll see you in 5 days. You'll probably throw a no-hitter. Like, it just is what it is.
Well, and on any given night, you can just be a little bit off when it comes to, being a starting pitcher. And it just, you can't give up on a guy very quickly. That's for sure. I mean, a lot of these guys, especially with the amount of money that they're investing in these players, you're going to give a guy 3 or 4 years before you're going to fully give up on him. You might move him around a little bit. You might, take advantage of an option or two to, let them figure some things out at AAA or AA. But yeah, I mean, you're not giving up on these guys. So
especially in baseball, if they have the right position coach or right hitting coach that finds that tweak in their stance and just opens up the game and they're batting 50 points higher. Those are massive differences. Put a torpedo bat in his hands. Like, let's see what happens.
Speaking of torpedo bats again, I have really appreciated and enjoyed watching Cody Bellinger come back from the brink. Last year had a resurgence with the Cubs, and after it kind of looked like after some injuries that he had that he was maybe done being a star. After his time with the Dodgers and whatnot, it just kind of looked like, yeah, he's going to be a role player for somebody until he just can't play anymore. And then he came back last year, had a great year for the Cubs, and now he's in New York and, looks like he's a star again. And
Right.
and you like watching a guy like him because of all of the things that he can do well. He runs well, he can hit for power, he can go get it at the fence in center field. You just enjoy that. And that's about the only thing that I will say as a positive for the New York Yankees. That's it. Everything else, lose every game. You heard it here first.
Cry about it, make bad decisions. We're all here for it.
Yeah, try to steal the baseball from Mookie Betts when he tries to climb. Oh, man. Anyway, well, we have kind of touched on everything. Is there anything else that we should hit before we close up shop for the week?
I think the big thing is there's a lot going on in sports right now. I think we've given everyone a chance to touch on everything and be immersed in what's going on. Enjoy the Final Four next week. It really should be 4 heavyweights that are hopefully throwing haymakers and hopefully open the eyes to super teams isn't the way to go for the tournament. It'll be interesting reading and listening to the postmortem of the Final Four, and then just get involved with your local teams too. There's a lot going on NHL, NBA wise that you can latch on to. A lot of good storylines, good matchups, and then really looking forward to discussing MLB throughout the season with you, Josh, and diving in. I know tonight we were catching up on White Lotus. Was too quiet last night, or we were too tired last night and pushed it. But the penultimate episode of season 3, and that show is bizarre.
I think I've reached a point where I can't ignore it anymore. Everybody just wants to talk about what an incredible show the White Lotus is, and we're probably going to have to check it out at some point pretty soon.
By incredible, it's incredibly bizarre. So go in with just the utmost of wide expectations.
Who doesn't like really something? Good? Yeah, who doesn't like? Yeah, well, so I mean, that's the thing that I've heard is that it's just a very pleasing, visually pleasing, audially pleasing show. And so, yes. in addition to the all-star cast that it's got, it sounds like they've had some real cameos that have been made at least this season. So yeah, I'll probably have to check it out. We realized that we never finished The Good Place, and so we are rewatching the entire series, and I think we're almost done with season 2, and forgot about just what a good show that is. And Ted Danson, at his best, and just a great cast. So we're trying to get caught up on that and finish it finally so we can move on, because you like to finish a series and then put it in your past as something that you can check out again in the future if you want, but you've seen it.
No, I'd rather wait 5 years in between one season and the last season. Thanks, Stranger Things. We appreciate you. Special shout out.
That's a great show. That's one of the more well done shows. The thing I love about Stranger Things is it's the 80s nostalgia, man. I mean, and it's not, I mean, I was born in 84, so it's not like I, had my real upbringing. I was still a 90s kid for the most part, but I grew up at a time where watching 80s movies and watching things that were from the 80s was still very fresh. And just that feeling takes you back to a simpler place, a simpler time. So I enjoy it a lot, but
it's kind of amazing to see the sets and the amount of attention to detail they have to making it stay in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, you people I think take for granted just how much work you have to do, because it's not like that's just CGI that they do that. I mean, they've really got a 1985 Caprice classic in brand new condition on that movie set, right? I mean, just like stuff like that. In addition to making, only using, home sets that look like they're fresh from the 80s. It's crazy, but
absolutely.
Yeah, I've been watching Reacher.
Reacher's great.
staying caught up
Fantastic
on Reacher. That's just one of those shows where, I mean, you like Alan Richardson as Reacher, of course, but it's just a well done show. And say what you will about Amazon, of course, but when it comes to Prime programming, they do a pretty good job. So
100%.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Anyway, all right. Well, we'll close up shop here and let everybody get back to their busy schedules, and we'll do the same. And we'll be back in a couple weeks. Thanks for tuning in and checking us out on You're Blocking the TV. And just remember not to. We'll see you.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.